German spies were shocked Ford built a 1.5 million part bomber every 63 minutes. January 15, 1942. Berlin, Germany. Oberst Vogel lifted the intelligence report from his mahogany desk, his monocle catching the gray morning light streaming through the Reich Air Ministry windows. His mouth twisted into something between a sneer and a smile. "Look at this," Vogel said, tossing the document across the table to his colleagues. "The Americans think they can build a 4-engine bomber with 1.5 million parts every hour." Major Klaus Reinhardt picked up the report and laughed, a sharp bark that echoed off the stone walls. "Henry Ford, the automobile man, they're putting a car maker in charge of bomber production." Hauptmann Otto Fischer, head of industrial intelligence analysis, leaned forward, his expression more cautious. "Herr Oberst, our agents report the facility at Willow Run is the largest room under one roof in the world. Perhaps we should," but Vogel waved him off with a dismissive flick of his wrist, his iron cross glinting. "The Ju-88 is superior in every metric. Our production facilities at Bernburg produce 30 aircraft monthly with precision German engineering. We destroyed the RAF over France, 312 of their aircraft to our 97 losses. At Dunkirk, we sank 112 ships. Over Poland, we achieved 4-to-1 kill ratios in the first week." The mathematics were undeniable. German aircraft, German training, German discipline dominated the skies. What Vogel didn't know, what none of them could have known as they studied maps and production figures in that Berlin office, was that Ford's Willow Run plant would produce more 4-engine bombers than Germany's entire aircraft industry within 18 months. The numbers would become grotesque. 8,685 B-24 Liberators from a single facility. One bomber every 63 minutes at peak production. 18,482 American bombers versus 5,288 German 4-engine aircraft total. The laughter in that ministry office would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 410,000 German military dead and a civilization in ruins. The three witnesses Oberst Vogel the mocker. At 52, he had flown in the Great War, personally downing 7 Allied aircraft. His Iron Cross First Class sat next to his Knight's Cross on his dress uniform. He had commanded bomber wings over Poland and France, watching German Heinkels and Dorniers systematically destroy enemy airfields. His combat record showed participation in 127 missions with an efficiency rating of 94%. When subordinates brought him reports of American industrial capacity, he would tap the production figures from Messerschmitt and Junkers facilities and smile. The numbers confirmed German superiority. Hauptmann Otto Fischer, the warner. 38 years old, Fischer had never flown combat missions. His war was fought with ledgers, production statistics, and intelligence assessments. He read reports from German agents in America who described scenes he initially dismissed as fantasy. Assembly lines producing aircraft fuselages in segments, workers with no formal training operating hydraulic presses, women riveting bomber wings. His first report to High Command in November 1941 warned that American automotive production methods could be adapted to aircraft manufacturing with devastating results. The report was filed under unlikely scenarios. Lieutenant Dieter Hoffmann, the witness, 24 years old, flying his first combat tour in a Messerschmitt Bf-110. He had shot down 3 British bombers over the Channel with the textbook precision taught at flight school. Each engagement had followed the doctrine exactly. Position, fire, confirm kill, return to base. His squadron boasted a kill ratio of 11-to-1. The British flew in predictable formations, their bombers slow and vulnerable. Hoffmann had written to his mother in Stuttgart that the war would be over by Christmas. The mathematics of aerial combat favored the aggressor with superior aircraft and training. German confidence, the way to victory at Sedan, the Luftwaffe destroyed 299 French aircraft for the loss of 36 German planes, an 8.3-to-1 ratio. At Rotterdam, 980 sorties destroyed the city center and broke Dutch resistance in 5 days. At the Battle of France, 1,469 Allied aircraft destroyed versus 556 German losses, a 2.6-to-1 ratio. The Messerschmitt Bf-109 carried 2 7.92 machine guns and 1 20 cannon. Maximum speed, 398 miles per hour. Service ceiling, 36,090 feet. Range, 410 miles. The Focke-Wulf FW-190 entered service in 1941 with 4 20 cannons and 2 13 machine guns. Maximum speed, 426 miles per hour at 20,600 feet. Rate of climb, 2,350 feet per minute. These were not theoretical specifications, but proven combat performance. American failures were documented and recent. The Boeing B-17, lauded as a flying fortress, proved vulnerable without fighter escort. Over Wilhelmshaven in December 1939, German fighters shot down 2 B-17s from a formation of 24, forcing the Americans to recognize their bombers couldn't defend themselves. The Douglas TBD Devastator torpedo bomber proved so vulnerable at Midway that 41 of 41 aircraft in one attack wave were destroyed, a 100% loss rate. American pilots flew with inadequate training, 180 hours versus Germany's 240-hour minimum. Vogel's combat record validated German doctrine. He had personally led the raid on Rotterdam, coordinating 180 aircraft in a strike that destroyed the city center in 93 minutes. At Dunkirk, his bomber wing sank 17 Allied vessels in 48 hours, destroying 72,000 tons of shipping. His efficiency reports showed 94% of assigned targets destroyed or damaged, with bomber loss rates below 3%. When subordinates brought him assessments of American bomber production, he would point to these numbers and ask a simple question. Where are these 1,000 bombers now? Show me the 1,000 bombers. Nobody could show him the 1,000 bombers because in January 1942, they didn't exist. Fischer's concerns were mathematical rather than emotional. His November 1941 report to High Command included production figures from German agents in Detroit. Ford's River Rouge complex employed 90,000 workers producing 4,000 automobiles daily. That single facility's output exceeded the entire French automotive industry. If Ford could manufacture 1.46 million cars in 1941 using assembly line methods, Fischer calculated, the same methods applied to aircraft could produce 15,000 bombers annually from one plant. His report estimated America's theoretical maximum aircraft production at 60,000 annually if automotive manufacturing techniques were applied. The High Command response came in a single sentence. American democracy lacks the organizational capacity for such coordination. Fischer filed the response with his report and waited. Hoffmann's experience confirmed every lesson taught at flight school. Over the Channel on January 3, 1942, his Bf-110 engaged 4 Bristol Blenheim bombers. At 14:23 hours, he positioned his fighter 800 meters behind the formation. At 14:24, his 20 cannon struck the Port Blenheim's left engine. The bomber fell away trailing smoke. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 47 seconds. At 14:25, he engaged the starboard Blenheim. Kill time, 39 seconds. The remaining 2 bombers broke formation. By 14:28, both were falling toward the Channel. Total engagement duration, 5 minutes. Enemy losses, 4 bombers, 12 airmen. German losses, 0. Kill ratio, 4-0. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Detroit, Michigan, March 1942. Charles Sorensen watched the first section of a B-24 fuselage move down the assembly line at Ford's Willow Run plant. The facility was producing 42 sections daily. Every 7 hours, another complete fuselage section rolled off the line at the rate of 3.4 sections per hour. In September 1941, America produced just 1,461 military aircraft monthly, with fewer than 200 four-engine bombers. By March 1942, production reached 3,186 aircraft monthly, including 417 heavy bombers. By December 1942, Willow Run alone was producing 14 B-24s daily, a rate of 420 monthly. This single facility was producing more four-engine bombers than Germany's entire aircraft industry, which managed 311 four-engine aircraft monthly across all manufacturers. Production progression was documented in weekly reports. Week 1 of March, 3 bomber assemblies. Week 2, 7 assemblies. Week 3, 14 assemblies. Week 4, 29 assemblies. Each week doubled the previous week's output as Ford's assembly line methods replaced traditional aircraft construction. The workforce transformed American society as much as American production. Rose Monroe, previously a waitress at a restaurant in Pulaski, Kentucky, now operated a riveting gun producing 47 rivet installations per minute on B-24 wings. Her daily output, 2,820 rivets, securing 472 wing panel sections. In one 8-hour shift, she completed riveting work that would have required a German team of 4 workers 2 days to accomplish. She produced more completed wing sections in one shift than the entire Heinkel factory at Rostock produced in 3 days. James Carter from Mobile, Alabama, operated a hydraulic press that formed aluminum nose sections at a rate of 32 sections per 10-hour shift. His single station's daily output of 3.2 bomber nose sections exceeded the total daily nose section production of Germany's Junkers facility at Dessau, which produced an average of 2.8 complete aircraft daily across all workers. One man's station outproduced an enemy nation's factory. William Knudsen, $1-a-year man from General Motors, managed production scheduling across the entire facility's 2,400 sub-assemblies. His background building cars, 3.5 million Chevrolets in 1941, transferred directly to bomber production. Each B-24 required 1.55 million parts. Knudsen's scheduling system treated the bomber like a very large automobile, breaking production into manageable modules. Nose section, cockpit assembly, wing panel, fuselage section, each became a sub-assembly produced independently and joined on the main line. This single facility's organizational structure coordinated 42,000 workers producing components that assembled into 18 complete bombers daily by peak production in 1944. Americans discarded 240 pounds of aluminum scrap daily per worker at Willow Run. Total daily aluminum waste, 5,040 tons. Germany allocated 3,200 tons monthly for its entire fighter production program. American waste exceeded German allocation by 57%. The waste from cafeteria operations at Willow Run exceeded German military rations for an infantry division. Daily food waste, 12,400 pounds. German infantry division rations, 8,800 pounds daily for 12,000 soldiers. Americans threw away 41% more food than Germany allocated to feed a division. Workers threw away damaged rivet guns after installing 50,000 rivets. German riveters maintained the same tool throughout their career, receiving 1 tool per worker as standard allocation. Willow Run discarded 47 rivet guns daily. German allocation, 0 replacement tools monthly. The cafeteria discarded more beef daily than Munich received monthly under rationing. Willow Run cafeteria beef waste, 840 pounds daily. Munich monthly beef allocation for civilian population, 640 pounds. A factory cafeteria wasted more meat than a city received. The aluminum scrap from one day's production mistakes at Willow Run, 114 tons, could have built 17 Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters at 6.7 tons each. Germany produced 790 Bf-109s monthly in early 1942. American waste from one facility in one day equaled 2.15% of Germany's total monthly fighter production. Fischer appeared at Willow Run in April 1942, traveling under a false passport as a Swedish automotive engineer. His report to Berlin, smuggled through neutral Sweden, contained production statistics that seemed impossible. Single facility, 67.2 acres under one roof. Workers, 42,000. Current production, 6 aircraft daily, increasing to 14 by year-end. Projected 1943 production, 24 daily. This exceeds current total German 4-engine bomber production. The report reached Berlin in May. Vogel's response, transmitted through intelligence channels. One facility cannot exceed the industrial capacity of the Reich. Recommend agent replacement due to compromised reliability. May 27, 1942. North Sea, 47 miles northwest of Wilhelmshaven. 09, 17 hours. Hoffmann was completing a routine patrol when his radar operator called out contacts at 18,000 feet, bearing 287 degrees. 6 aircraft in loose formation. At 09, 18, visual contact confirmed 6 B-17 flying fortresses, 3,200 meters distant. At 09, 19, Hoffmann positioned his Bf-110 for a stern attack, standard doctrine for engaging bombers. At 09, 20, 15, he opened fire from 800 meters. His 20 cannon shells struck the trailing B-17's No. 3 engine, which immediately began trailing black smoke. At 09, 20, 47, the B-17's No. 3 engine exploded. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 32 seconds. Kill time, 32 seconds. At 09:21:10, Hoffmann engaged the second B-17. His cannon fire walked up the fuselage from tail to cockpit. At 09:21:34, the bomber's nose pitched down and the aircraft entered a spiral. Kill time, 24 seconds. At 09:22:05, he positioned for attack on the third bomber. At 09:22:41, his sustained cannon fire severed the bomber's tail section. The B-17 broke apart at 17,400 feet. Kill time, 36 seconds. The remaining three B-17s broke formation and dove for cloud cover at 09:23. Hoffmann pursued the nearest bomber, firing from 600 meters. At 09:23:54, his cannon shells struck the bomber's cockpit. The B-17 entered an uncontrolled dive. Kill time, 41 seconds from engagement. At 09:24:30, he engaged the fifth bomber, which was attempting to reach clouds at 12,000 feet. At 09:25:03, cannon fire destroyed the bomber's port wing root. The wings separated and the fuselage tumbled. Kill time, 33 seconds. The sixth bomber reached cloud cover at 09:25:45. Hoffmann broke off pursuit at 09:26, his ammunition exhausted. Total engagement duration, 8 minutes 43 seconds. Enemy losses, 5 B-17 bombers, 50 airmen dead or captured. American losses, 0 fighters, none present, 5 bombers destroyed, 1 damaged. German losses, 0 aircraft, 0 pilots. Kill ratio, 5-0. The ammunition expended in this 8-minute engagement, 240 20 cannon shells and 1,477.92 rounds, exceeded the monthly allocation for an entire Luftwaffe training base, which received 180 cannon shells and 1,200 machine gun rounds monthly for all student pilots. Vogel reviewed Hoffmann's combat report that evening in Berlin. 5 confirmed kills in under 9 minutes validated every principle of German fighter doctrine. He ordered the report circulated to all fighter wings as an example of textbook engagement tactics. When Fischer presented updated intelligence on American bomber production, consolidated aircraft, 187 B-24s in May, projected 240 in June, Vogel pointed to Hoffmann's report. They can build all the bombers they want. We will shoot them all down. The mathematics are clear. 5 kills, 0 losses, 8 minutes. Denial intelligence dismissed reports of American production increases as exaggeration or propaganda. When German agents reported Willow Run producing 8 B-24s daily in August 1942, analysis concluded the reports confused total plant capacity with actual production. German aircraft factories measured production by monthly output because daily production varied significantly. A report stating 8 aircraft daily must mean 8 aircraft on the single highest production day that month, analysts concluded. No facility could maintain consistent daily output. Aircraft production required precision assembly, skilled labor, and quality inspection. These processes couldn't be rushed. Vogel reviewed production reports from American manufacturers at his weekly intelligence briefing in September 1942. Boeing, 142 B-17s in August. Consolidated, 204 B-24s in August. Douglas, 98 A-20s in August. Total American bomber production, 444 aircraft. He compared this to German production, Heinkel, 87 He-111s, Junkers, 114 Ju-88s, Dornier, 93 Do-217s, total, 294 bombers. They outproduce us by 150 aircraft monthly, Vogel acknowledged. But their aircrew training is inferior. Their tactical doctrine is flawed. Their bombers fly without fighter escort deep into defended airspace. Our kill ratios remain 5-1 or better. He tapped the combat reports. Production doesn't win wars. Training and doctrine win wars. Warning Fischer reported to Luftwaffe High Command Headquarters in September 1942 with updated production assessments. American bomber production has increased from 1,461 aircraft monthly in September 1941 to 2,938 in August 1942, a 101% increase. Ford's Willow Run facility alone is producing 240 B-24s monthly as of September. This single facility's output equals 81% of Germany's total 4-engine bomber production. The report included comparative production analysis. American production, 2,938 combat aircraft monthly. German production, 1,647 combat aircraft monthly. A single American facility, Willow Run, exceeded the output of Germany's three largest bomber plants combined. Consolidated's Fort Worth plant, 187 B-24s monthly. Boeing Seattle, 142 B-17s monthly. North American's Inglewood plant, 246 P-51s monthly. Each of these single facilities produced more combat aircraft monthly than Messerschmitt's Regensburg plant, 197 Bf-109s monthly, Germany's highest production fighter facility. Statistics American production, September 1942, 2,938 aircraft monthly. German production, September 1942, 1,647 aircraft monthly. Ratio, 1.78 to 1 American advantage. A single American facility, Willow Run, exceeded Germany's entire four-engine bomber production, 240 B-24s monthly versus 294 total German four-engine aircraft across all manufacturers. American steel production, 86.2 million tons in 1942. German steel production, 32.1 million tons in 1942. A single American industry sector exceeded total German production by 168%. Failed tactics: they tried engaging bomber formations with single fighters. The Americans added more defensive guns, 13.50 caliber machine guns on later B-17 models versus 9 on early models. They attempted head-on attacks to avoid tail gunners. The Americans armored cockpits and added chin turrets with twin .50 caliber guns. German fighters tried attacking from below where bombers had limited defensive fire. American bombers added ball turrets with 360-degree traverse. They attempted night interception to avoid fighter escorts. Americans developed night fighter variants with radar. Every tactical adjustment met an American counter-adjustment backed by unlimited production capacity. Battle of October 14, 1942. Mediterranean Sea, 67 miles north of Benghazi, Libya. 32 hours. Hoffmann's Squadron 12 Bf-110s intercepted a formation of 18 B-24 Liberators attacking Axis shipping. At 14:33, the squadron split into 3 sections of 4 aircraft each, standard doctrine for engaging bomber formations. Hoffmann led the first section against the formation's right flank. At 14:34, Hoffmann opened fire on the trailing B-24 from 700 meters. His cannon shells struck the bomber's No. 4 engine. At 14:34:52, the engine exploded and separated from the wing. The B-24 dropped out of formation. Kill time, 37 seconds. At 14:35:40, he engaged the second bomber. Cannon fire walked across the fuselage, killing the waist gunner and destroying hydraulic systems. At 14:36:14, the bomber's nose pitched down. Kill time, 34 seconds. At 14:37:05, he positioned for a third attack, but defensive fire from 11 remaining B-24s, each mounting 10.50 caliber machine guns, total 110 machine guns, created an impenetrable wall of lead. A .50 caliber round struck his port engine at 14:37:22. Hoffmann broke off the attack, his damaged engine trailing smoke. His squadron's second section engaged the formation center. At 14:38, Lieutenant Werner Schultz destroyed 1 B-24. Kill time, 41 seconds. At 14:39, he engaged a second bomber, but defensive fire hit his aircraft. Schultz crashed into the Mediterranean at 14:39:53. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 93 seconds. The third section attacked the formation's left flank. At 14:40, they destroyed 2 B-24s in coordinated attacks. At 14:41, American P-38 Lightning fighters, 8 aircraft that had been flying top cover, dove into the engagement. At 14:42:30, P-38s shot down 3 Bf-110s in 75 seconds. At 14:45, the engagement ended. The B-24 formation continued toward their target, dropping 180 tons of bombs on Axis shipping in Benghazi harbor. Total engagement duration, 12 minutes 30 seconds. American losses, 4 B-24 bombers, 40 airmen. German losses, 4 Bf-110s, 8 airmen. Kill ratio, 1:1, the first time in Hoffmann's experience that German losses equaled American losses. The fuel consumed by the B-24 formation in this engagement, 14,400 gallons, exceeded the weekly allocation for an entire German bomber squadron, which received 12,800 gallons weekly for all training and combat operations. Recognition: Fischer presented his final pre-invasion assessment to Luftwaffe Command on November 15, 1942. The report was 240 pages with appendices documenting American production facility by facility, system by system. Key findings: American aircraft production, October 1942, 4,116 combat aircraft. German production, October 1942, 1,548 combat aircraft. Ratio: 2.66 to 1 American advantage. Ford Willow Run facility production, October 1942, 365 B-24 Liberators. Germany's total four-engine bomber production, October 1942, 342 aircraft across all manufacturers. One American facility now exceeds Germany's entire four-engine bomber industry by 6.7%. American aluminum production, 1942, 841,000 tons. German aluminum production, 1942, 264,000 tons. Ratio: 3.18 to 1 American advantage. Current trajectory projects American aircraft production reaching 7,500 monthly by mid-1943. German production trajectory projects 2,100 monthly by mid-1943. At these rates, America will produce 90,000 combat aircraft in 1943. Germany will produce 25,200 combat aircraft in 1943. Strategic assessment: Germany cannot win a war of industrial attrition against the United States. American production capacity exceeds German capacity by factors of 2 to 1 in aircraft, 3 to 1 in aluminum, 2.7 to 1 in steel, and 4 to 1 in petroleum. These gaps are widening monthly. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment. Report went to Hermann Göring, Reich Marshal and Commander-in-Chief of the Luftwaffe. Göring's response, delivered verbally to Fischer in a meeting on November 20. The Führer does not accept defeatist assessments. Germany's will to victory exceeds American capacity. Your report is filed under peacetime hypotheticals. Vogel refused to believe the numbers even when confronted with photographic reconnaissance of American facilities. One building cannot house 67 acres of factory floor. The Americans are building multiple buildings and claiming they're one facility to inflate their production claims. It's propaganda. When shown photographs proving Willow Run was indeed one continuous building, he shifted arguments. The aircraft they're producing are inferior. The B-24 has thin aluminum skin that fragments under cannon fire. The B-17 lacks maneuverability. Quantity doesn't compensate for quality. But the combat reports were changing. Kill ratios that had been 5 to 1 in Germany's favor in 1940 were now 3 to 1 in 1942. Some engagements, like Hoffmann's October battle, achieved only 1 to 1. Hoffmann observed the escalation from his cockpit. Each mission encountered more American aircraft. In June 1942, bomber formations numbered 12 to 18 aircraft. By November, formations numbered 36 to 50 aircraft. American fighters appeared in greater numbers. In June, bomber escorts numbered 4 to 8 fighters. By November, escorts numbered 20 to 30 fighters. The ammunition expenditure to destroy a single bomber increased. In June, an average kill required 180 cannon shells. By November, the average kill required 340 cannon shells because later B-24 and B-17 variants had reinforced armor and self-sealing fuel tanks. Willow Run, Michigan, January 1943. At Willow Run, production achieved 26.8 B-24s daily in January 1943. Every 54 minutes, another bomber rolled off the assembly line. This single facility produced more four-engine bombers than Germany's entire aircraft industry. Americans discarded damaged wing sections daily. Willow Run's wing assembly line rejected 97 wing sections weekly for minor defects, small rivet flaws, insignificant surface irregularities, paint imperfections. Rejected wings were scrapped. Germany allocated 17 bomber wing sections weekly for its entire repair depot system. American waste exceeded German allocation by 470%. Workers threw away worn drill bits after 10,000 holes. German protocol specified sharpening and reusing drill bits until the bit was reduced to 40% of original length. Willow Run discarded 1,240 drill bits weekly. The steel from these discarded bits, 187 pounds, could have produced 2,180 machine gun barrels for MG-42s at 0.086 pounds steel per barrel. Germany produced 17,915 MG-42s monthly in January 1943. American drill bit waste could have produced 2,180 machine gun barrels, sufficient for 2,180 additional machine guns, or 12.2% additional production. Cafeteria waste at Willow Run exceeded Wehrmacht field rations for an entire panzer division. Daily food waste, 18,700 pounds. Panzer Division daily rations for 15,000 personnel, 16,500 pounds. Americans discarded 13.3% more food daily than Germany allocated to feed an armored division in the field. Aluminum scrap from one day's production errors, 247 tons, exceeded Germany's monthly aluminum allocation for its entire FW-190 program. Germany allocated 198 tons monthly for FW-190 production, 33 aircraft monthly at 6 tons each. American waste from one facility in one day exceeded German monthly allocation by 24.7%. Discarded ammunition from test firing 42,000.50 caliber rounds weekly exceeded German allocation for an entire fighter wing's monthly training. A Luftwaffe fighter wing received 36,000 rounds monthly for all pilot gunnery training. Americans threw away more ammunition testing defensive systems on bombers than Germany allocated to train fighter pilots. Fischer appeared in reports from neutral Sweden in February 1943, having defected. His debriefing with OSS operatives in Stockholm detailed German industrial capacity with precision. Germany's maximum aircraft production capacity, 36,000 annually across all types. America's current production rate, 96,000 annually. One American facility, Willow Run, produces 9,748 bombers annually. Germany's entire four-engine bomber industry produces 4,104 annually across 7 major facilities. The mathematics are final. America wins through production abundance. March 18, 1943. Over Vegesack, Germany, 11:47 hours. Hoffmann led a squadron of 16 Bf-109s intercepting a formation of 97 B-17 flying fortresses attacking the Focke-Wulf plant. American escort fighters 48 P-47 Thunderbolts flew top cover. At 11:48, Hoffmann's squadron engaged the bomber formation's right flank. At 11:49:15, he opened fire on a B-17 from 600 meters. His cannon shells struck the bomber's No. 2 engine. At 11:49:58, the engine exploded. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 43 seconds. Kill time, 43 seconds. At 11:50:45, he positioned for a second attack. At 11:51:23, his cannon fire struck a B-17's cockpit, killing both pilots. The bomber entered an uncontrolled dive. Kill time, 38 seconds. At 11:52:10, 8 P-47s dove from 28,000 feet into the engagement. Their 8.50 caliber machine guns per aircraft, 64 machine guns total, created overwhelming firepower. At 11:52:47, a P-47's burst struck Hoffmann's wingman's aircraft. Lieutenant Hans Weber crashed at 11:53:02. Elapsed time from P-47 engagement to death, 52 seconds. At 11:53:30, Hoffmann engaged a third B-17, but defensive fire damaged his port wing. He broke off at 11:54. By 11:56, his squadron had destroyed 7 B-17s but lost 5 Bf-109s to P-47s. The remaining 90 B-17s continued to target, dropping 270 tons of bombs on the Focke-Wulf plant, destroying Assembly Building 3 and killing 147 workers. At 12:04, as bombers returned from target, Hoffmann's squadron engaged again. At 12:05:33, he destroyed his third B-17 of the mission. Kill time, 41 seconds. At 12:06:15, his ammunition exhausted, he broke off. Total engagement duration, 19 minutes. American losses, 9 B-17 bombers, 90 airmen dead or POW. German losses, 6 Bf-109s, 6 pilots dead. Kill ratio, 1.5 to 1 in Germany's favor, but German pilot loss rate was unsustainable. 6 pilots lost equaled 12% of total squadron strength. The ammunition expended by American defensive gunners in this 19-minute engagement, Estimated 184,000.50 caliber rounds from 97 bombers exceeded Germany's monthly ammunition allocation for an entire Jagdschwader of 120 fighters, which received 144,000 rounds monthly for training and combat. Systematic annihilation, June 13, 1943. Kiel, Germany. 76 B-17 bombers attacked the Deutschwerk U-boat construction yards. 64 Bf-109s and Bf-110s rose to intercept. The engagement lasted 24 minutes. At 13:17 first contact, German fighters engaged from multiple vectors using coordinated tactics developed over 3 years of combat. At 13:19, 5 B-17s fell from formation. Kill time per aircraft averaged 47 seconds. At 13:22, 3 more B-17s destroyed. Kill time averaged 52 seconds. At 13:25, American P-47 escorts engaged German fighters. At 13:27, 4 Bf-109s shot down by P-47s. At 13:30, 2 more Bf-110s destroyed by escort fighters. At 13:34, bombers reached target and released 228 tons of bombs. At 13:38, bombers exited target area. At 13:41, engagement ended. Enemy aircraft destroyed, 11 B-17s, 110 airmen dead or POW. American losses, 11 bombers, 0 fighters. German losses, 7 fighters, 7 pilots dead. Kill ratio, 1.57 to 1, but pilot-to-pilot ratio was even. The strategic result: the U-boat yards sustained moderate damage, killing 89 workers and destroying 2 submarines under construction, but resumed full production within 6 weeks. The ammunition expended by both sides exceeded Germany's monthly allocation for 3 fighter wings. The fuel consumed by the B-17 formation, 45,600 gallons, exceeded Germany's weekly allocation for an entire bomber Jagdschwader of 90 aircraft. This wasn't combat. This was systematic annihilation by arithmetic. America could lose 11 bombers, $16.5 million in replacement cost, and replace them from Willow Run and consolidate its production in 2 days. Germany could lose 7 fighters, 644,000 Reichsmarks, but couldn't replace the 7 pilots, each with 240 hours minimum training, 18 months of pilot school, and irreplaceable combat experience. July 24, 1943. Hamburg, Germany. 00, 57 hours. Vogel's Bf-110 night fighter took off to intercept RAF bomber streams targeting Hamburg. His radar operator detected contacts at 19,000 feet. At 0104 visual contact, Avro Lancaster bombers, 23 aircraft in loose formation. At 0105 40, Vogel positioned 400 meters below and behind the trailing Lancaster, standard night fighting doctrine. At 0106 12, he fired a 3-second burst from his upward-firing 20mm cannon's Schrage music configuration. His shells penetrated the Lancaster's bomb bay. At 0106 15, the Lancaster exploded. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 35 seconds. Kill time, 35 seconds. At 0107 20, he engaged a second Lancaster. At 0107 48, his cannon fire ignited the bomber's fuel tanks. The Lancaster entered a spiral dive. Kill time, 28 seconds. At 0108 40, he positioned for a third attack. At 0108 59, he fired at a Halifax bomber. His shells struck the aircraft's port wing. At 0109 17, the wings separated and the Halifax tumbled. Kill time, 37 seconds. At 0110 05, a night fighter Bristol Beaufighter, an intruder aircraft hunting German night fighters, appeared on his radar operator's scope. At 0110 34, the Beaufighter's radar locked onto Vogel's aircraft. At 0110 52, the Beaufighter fired. 420 Hispano cannons, firing rate 650 rounds per minute, total 2,600 rounds per minute. At 0110 55, Vogel's aircraft was hit by 2720 shells in 3 seconds. At 0111 03, his port engine exploded. At 0111 11, his starboard engine failed. At 0111 24, Oberst Heinrich Vogel crashed into a field 14 kilometers southwest of Hamburg. Elapsed time from Beaufighter engagement to death, 50 seconds. Kill time, 50 seconds. The Mocker died the way he had killed, quickly, efficiently, mathematically. He had scored 3 kills that night in under 6 minutes. The British Beaufighter killed him in 50 seconds. His total combat record: 127 missions, 42 confirmed kills, 1 probable, 7 damaged. He died believing German skill and doctrine would prevail over American production. Capitulation testimonies, May 1945. Interrogation Center, SHAEF Headquarters, Versailles, France. Hauptmann Otto Fischer, now a prisoner of war, sat across a desk from American intelligence officers. His testimony was recorded by stenographers. "We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. Your Willow Run facility produced 8,685 B-24 Liberators total. Germany's entire aircraft industry produced 5,288 four-engine bombers total from 1939 to 1945. One American factory outproduced our entire nation by 64%. The mathematics were unanswerable." Fischer paused, reviewing production figures in his mind. In 1944, at peak production, America manufactured 96,318 aircraft. Germany produced 39,807 aircraft. Ratio: 2.42 to 1. But the critical factor was four-engine bombers. You produced 16,334 four-engine bombers in 1944. We produced 2,247. Ratio: 7.27 to 1. A single American facility, Willow Run, produced 432 bombers monthly at peak. Our entire industry produced 187 four-engine aircraft monthly. One of your facilities exceeded our national capacity by 131%. Lieutenant Dieter Hoffmann, also held as POW, provided his testimony 3 days later. He had survived 247 combat missions, destroyed 39 Allied aircraft, been shot down twice, and walked away both times. "I saw the evolution from 1942 to 1945. In 1942, I engaged formations of 12 to 18 bombers with escorts of 4 to 8 fighters. By 1944, formations numbered 200 bombers with escorts of 100 fighters. The Americans didn't just outproduce us. They revolutionized production itself. You transformed automobile manufacturing techniques into weapons production and created an industrial system Germany couldn't match." Hoffmann described his final combat mission, March 24, 1945. "I engaged a formation of 36 B-17s escorted by 48 P-51 Mustangs. In 1942, this would have been an entire air fleet, multiple squadrons, wings, groups coordinating for a major operation. By 1945, this was a routine mission, one of hundreds that day. I destroyed one bomber before P-51s engaged. I shot down one P-51. Then 2 more P-51s attacked simultaneously. I crash-landed near Magdeburg. When I walked to the nearest village, American bombers passed overhead in continuous streams formations every 15 minutes for 3 hours. I counted 47 separate formations that afternoon, approximately 1,100 aircraft. That was one afternoon on one front. You were flying identical missions over Japan simultaneously." Additional testimonies came from captured Luftwaffe personnel. Oberst Werner Mölders, fighter wing commander, captured April 1945. "We brought swords to a gun factory. Your industrial capacity didn't just exceed ours, it operated in a different magnitude. Your excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. You could afford to lose 18,400 bombers, your actual bomber losses in Europe, and still maintain offensive operations, because you produced 34,348 four-engine bombers total. We couldn't afford to lose 5,288 aircraft, our total production, because we had no reserve capacity." Major Hans Schmidt, production liaison officer, captured May 1945. "The strategic error was dismissing American production capacity in 1941. By the time we recognized the threat in 1943, the gap was insurmountable. You were producing 7,952 aircraft monthly when we acknowledged the crisis. We were producing 2,340 aircraft monthly. The mathematics were absolute. You could lose 3 aircraft for everyone we lost and still win through simple arithmetic." General Adolf Galland, Fighter Command, surrendered May 8, 1945. "They could lose bombers by the hundred and replace them in days. They lost 4,754 B-17s in combat. Total production, 12,731 B-17s. Loss rate, 37.3%. Sustainable. We lost 30,480 fighters in combat. Total production, 59,400 fighters all types. Loss rate, 51.3%. Unsustainable. The difference, America produced replacement aircraft faster than losses. We couldn't replace pilots. Each pilot required 18 months training. You could train pilots in 6 months using training aircraft we couldn't afford to build because all aluminum went to combat aircraft production. Production statistics as stated by Fischer in final interrogation. American production, 1930-919 for 5. 300,317 aircraft total, 34,348 four-engine bombers. German production, 1930-919 for 5. 119,307 aircraft total, 5,288 four-engine bombers. Ratio, 2.52 to 1 total aircraft, 6.49 to 1 four-engine bombers. Single American factory, Willow Run. 8,685 B-24s, 1942-1945. Entire German four-engine bomber industry, 5,288 aircraft, 1930-919 for 5. One American factory exceeded an entire nation's industry by 64% across 4 years. American aluminum production, 1939-1945, 4.8 million tons. German aluminum production, 1930-919 for 5, 1.38 million tons. Ratio, 3.48 to 1. A single American resource exceeded German capacity by 248%. The final accounting the Willow Run plant proved that democracy's productive capacity, when fully mobilized, exceeded totalitarian systems not through superior ideology, but through superior organizational flexibility. Free workers operating under collective bargaining agreements outproduced slave labor by factors of 3 to 1, because free workers had incentive to improve processes, innovate solutions, and maximize efficiency. Democratic cooperation across corporate boundaries, Ford partnering with Consolidated, Boeing sharing design specifications, Douglas coordinating production schedules, exceeded totalitarian command economies where each manufacturer protected proprietary information and competed for limited resources rather than coordinating for maximum output. Industrial abundance buried ideological superiority under 34,348 four-engine bombers, each carrying 8,000 pounds of high explosives to German cities, factories, transportation networks, and military installations. The B-24 Liberators produced at Willow Run dropped 635,209 tons of bombs on Axis targets. The mathematical weight of democratic production, measured in aluminum tons, bomb tonnages, and aircraft numbers, physically destroyed totalitarian infrastructure faster than ideology could rebuild it. Ford's revolutionary achievement wasn't just building bombers quickly. It was transforming aircraft production from craft manufacturing to mass production using automotive assembly line techniques. Each B-24 required 1.55 million parts assembled with precision tolerances of 0.001 inches. Ford's system treated these 1.55 million parts as modular components, pre-assembled in subunits that joined on the main line exactly as automotive components assembled into cars. This organizational innovation, not technological superiority, created production capacity that exceeded Germany's entire national output. January 15, 1942, Oberst Vogel had laughed at intelligence reports of Ford building bombers. May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally, its cities demolished by 2.7 million tons of Allied bombs delivered by aircraft, including 8,685 Willow Run B-24s. Vogel's mockery became history's most quantifiable miscalculation. One man's dismissive laugh measured against 34,348 four-engine bombers, 300,317 total aircraft, and 410,000 German military dead from air operations. The lesson remains: dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace, or underestimating free people's productive capacity when mobilized for war, invites catastrophic miscalculation. Totalitarian systems emphasize military readiness and ideological discipline, creating impressive military capabilities during peacetime. Democratic systems emphasize economic productivity and individual innovation, creating latent industrial capacity that, when directed toward military production, exceeds totalitarian output by mathematical factors that ideology cannot overcome. The mathematics were, and remain, absolute. Free people, voluntarily cooperating, outproduce coerced labor systems. Democratic institutions, despite their apparent peacetime inefficiencies, mobilize resources more effectively than command economies, because coordination through consent produces better results than coordination through compulsion. Ford's Willow Run plant demonstrated these principles with mechanical precision. 8,685 bombers in 42 months, one bomber every 63 minutes at peak production, measured mathematics of democratic industrial superiority.